You see, when a woman says she's not in the mood, most men jump to conclusions. They assume it's about them, that she's no longer attracted, that something is wrong physically, or that she's being difficult. But let me tell you something most people miss. It's not usually about the physical at all. More often than not, her disinterest is emotional. It's rooted in how she feels how safe, loved, and understood she feels in your presence. And if you don't get that, you'll keep trying to fix the wrong problem. Let me paint a picture. A woman can be physically fine, in perfect health, and still feel no desire if there's a disconnect in the emotional atmosphere. If she feels unseen, unheard, or unappreciated, her desire doesn't just dim, it shuts off completely. And no amount of flowers, dinner dates, or trying to touch her in the right places will change that. Because desire for a woman is deeply connected to how secure and emotionally connected she feels. This is what a lot of men overlook. She may go through her day carrying the weight of work, family, home responsibilities, and still feel like no one truly notices her. And when she sits beside you on the couch, it's not the physical space between you that's the problem. It's the emotional distance. You might think everything's fine because she's not complaining, but trust me, silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's resignation. Sometimes she's already started to retreat emotionally, and when that happens, desire is one of the first things to disappear. Women are wired to crave connection before closeness. That's the way she opens up, the way she feels safe to give. When she feels emotionally connected, even the smallest gestures can light a spark. But when that connection is broken, even the biggest efforts fall flat. So when you ask why is she not in the mood, start by asking yourself, how emotionally connected are we right now? Did you listen when she talked about her day? Did you notice when she was overwhelmed, or were you too distracted? Did you show appreciation for the little things she does, or did you take them for granted? These questions matter, because for her, foreplay doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts with how you treat her when nothing physical is happening. It's the tenderness in your voice, the respect in your eyes, the way you show her she's a priority even when nothing is at stake. If she feels emotionally disconnected, she will naturally guard herself. And guarding herself means she won't be in the mood. So before you take it personally, before you assume she's just not interested anymore, take a closer look at the emotional climate of your relationship. Desire grows where connection lives. If you want to ignite the spark again, start with presence. Start with listening. Start with making her feel truly seen. Unmet emotional needs, this is one of the most silent and dangerous killers of intimacy in a relationship. And the reason it's so dangerous is because it doesn't always show up as loud arguments or dramatic breakups. It creeps in quietly over time through repeated moments of neglect, lack of appreciation, and emotional absence. She starts off hopeful, believing that maybe you'll notice, maybe you'll tune in. But when those needs go unmet long enough, she starts to shut down, not out of anger, but out of self-protection. What most people don't realize is that women are deeply emotional beings. We thrive on connection, reassurance, and consistent signs of love. Not just words, but actions that align with them. So when a woman's emotional needs are consistently ignored or dismissed, it chips away at her ability to be open and vulnerable with you. And when vulnerability disappears, so does desire. Because for a woman, physical intimacy isn't just about attraction. It's about trust. It's about feeling emotionally nourished, like her heart is being held gently, not carelessly brushed aside. So when she's not in the mood, you have to ask yourself, have I been meeting her emotional needs lately? Have I made her feel valued, not just for what she does, but for who she is? Have I shown her that I see her, truly see her? It's easy to fall into routines where you assume everything is fine because there's no major conflict, but peace isn't always a sign of health in a relationship. Sometimes, peace is just quiet resignation. She may have stopped complaining because she's tired. She may have stopped asking because the answers never came. And in that space, she stops giving. She doesn't do it out of spite. She does it because her emotional well has run dry. You can't keep expecting her to pour love, attention, and physical energy into the relationship when she feels empty. No one can thrive that way. And yet, so many men overlook this, thinking that love should be automatic. But love isn't automatic. It's responsive. It grows when it's fed. You want her to be more affectionate, more open, more in the mood? Start by feeding her emotionally. Start by giving her what she actually needs: validation, appreciation, tenderness. It's in the little things. It's in remembering the details she told you 2 weeks ago. It's in noticing when she's worn out and stepping in without being asked. It's in telling her she's beautiful when she's in her worst mood and not just when she's all dressed up. Every unmet emotional need is a withdrawal from the relationship, and when the emotional balance is negative, intimacy suffers. The solution isn't to demand more or complain about what's missing. It's to give more presence, more kindness, more consistent love. That's where the healing starts. That's where the desire comes back to life. When she feels emotionally full, giving to you becomes effortless. Sometimes it's not even about you. It's not about what you did wrong or didn't do. Sometimes she's just exhausted. And I don't mean the kind of tired that a good night's sleep can fix. I'm talking about a deep mental fatigue, a weight she carries every single day that drains her emotionally, mentally, and eventually physically. And that weight? It's often invisible to the people around her, including the one she loves. A lot of women carry what's called the mental load. It's the constant juggling of tasks, responsibilities, schedules, and emotional care for everyone else. She's thinking about what to cook for dinner, the deadlines at work, the kids' appointments, the bills, the errands, the family drama, and everything in between. Her mind is a never-ending to-do list. So by the time she finally gets a moment to herself, there's barely anything left to give. Now imagine adding pressure for intimacy on top of all that. When her mind is cluttered and her body is on autopilot, desire can't find room to breathe. She's not rejecting you. She's overwhelmed. And in that state, even the idea of being close can feel like one more demand, one more thing she has to show up for, when all she really needs is a moment to just be. This is where a lot of disconnect begins. You might interpret her lack of interest as a lack of love, but really it's exhaustion. She may not say it outright, she might not even fully realize it herself, but her body and emotions are telling the truth. They're saying, I need rest, I need support, I need someone to see me struggling and step in, not step away. You want her to be more in the mood? Start by helping lighten her mental and emotional load. Offer to take something off her plate. Not just once, but consistently. Not because you expect something in return, but because you love her, because you see her, and because you want her to have room to breathe again. Sometimes intimacy isn't about seduction, it's about support. It's knowing that when she comes home and everything's already been taken care of, when the kids are settled and the dishes are done and the house feels peaceful, she can finally exhale. That sigh of relief is where intimacy begins. When she feels safe, relaxed, and cared for, her desire isn't forced. It flows naturally. If you keep waiting for her to get in the mood without paying attention to what's weighing her down, you'll keep missing the real problem. But if you tune in, if you become part of her peace instead of another pressure, things will begin to shift. Not instantly, but gradually. And that shift can change everything. When a woman feels supported, desire isn't something you have to chase. It's something that meets you right where you are. Let's talk about effort. Real effort. Not just the kind you made when you first met her, but the kind that's supposed to continue long after you've won her heart. You see, one of the biggest reasons a woman loses interest, why she's not in the mood anymore, is because the relationship has gone stale. It's lost its spark. Not because love isn't there, but because intention has disappeared. Things have become routine, predictable, and worse, unromantic. She starts to feel like she's just another item on your to-do list, instead of someone you're still trying to win over. At the beginning, it was different, wasn't it? You paid attention to every detail, you sent good morning texts, you planned dates, you asked questions, and actually listened to the answers. You touched her with purpose, not just desire. But somewhere along the way, that effort started to fade. You got comfortable. You assumed that because she's here, she'll always be here. That because she loves you, she doesn't need reminders. But let me tell you something, she does. Not because she's insecure, but because she's human. We all want to feel chosen consistently. And when a woman doesn't feel chosen anymore, when she feels like she's just part of your routine, she naturally starts to shut down. Romance is like a plant. If you stop watering it, it dies. And when romance dies, intimacy follows. She doesn't stop wanting to be close because she's changed. She stops because the energy that once fed her desire has vanished. So when you ask, why is she not in the mood, you have to look at your actions. When was the last time you made her feel special without expecting anything in return? When was the last time you complimented her just because, or left a note, planned a surprise, or simply looked at her the way you used to? Effort isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's about doing the small things that say, I still choose you. And it's not about perfection either. It's about presence. About showing up with your heart, not just your body. Because a woman's desire is connected to how seen and valued she feels. If you're only present when you want something, she feels used. But if you're present even when nothing's expected, she feels loved. Desire doesn't thrive in emotional absence. It thrives where effort is alive. And effort doesn't mean you have to perform. It means you have to care. Genuinely. It means you have to stay curious about her, just like you were in the beginning. Ask how she's really doing. Notice the way her eyes light up when she talks about something she loves. Hold her hand just because it feels good to be close. When you start showing up with a kind of love that doesn't wait for a special occasion, she'll start opening up again. Because when a woman feels like she still matters to you, her heart and everything else starts to respond. Communication. It sounds so simple, yet it's one of the most misunderstood elements in a relationship, and when it breaks down, everything else starts to unravel, including intimacy. A lot of men think they're good communicators just because they talk. But talking isn't the same as connecting. And listening isn't just about hearing the words, it's about understanding the message behind them. That's what many people miss. She might be speaking, but are you really listening? When a woman feels unheard, she begins to pull back, not necessarily out of spite, but because continuing to speak without being understood is exhausting. Imagine pouring your heart out, hoping to feel lighter, only to feel more alone afterward. That's what it's like when she tries to communicate, but you're only half present, nodding while scrolling or offering quick solutions instead of real empathy. And over time, that dynamic doesn't just make her feel frustrated, it makes her feel invisible. Desire starts with emotional safety. When a woman feels heard, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, she opens up. But when her words constantly fall on deaf ears, she learns to keep them to herself. She learns that her feelings won't be taken seriously, that her emotions are a burden. And once she's in that space, intimacy becomes harder and harder to access. Not because she doesn't love you, but because she doesn't feel emotionally secure with you. Listening is an act of love. It's not about fixing her problems or always having the right answer. Sometimes it's just about being present, holding space for her and saying, I hear you, I see you, what you feel matters. That level of connection builds trust. And when trust is strong, emotional intimacy deepens. Physical intimacy flows from that naturally. Another key part of communication is learning her language, understanding not just what she says, but how she says it. Every woman has a unique emotional rhythm. For some, words of affirmation mean the world. For others, it's quality time or thoughtful gestures. When you understand how she receives love, you speak to her soul, not just her ears. And when a woman feels emotionally spoken to, she becomes more responsive, more open, more drawn to you. But you can't guess your way into that understanding. You have to ask. You have to be curious again. Ask what makes her feel most loved. Ask what she needs when she's overwhelmed. And then, most importantly, follow through. That's how trust is built. That's how you shift the dynamic from surface level interaction to deep emotional connection. So if she seems distant, uninterested, or constantly not in the mood, stop asking how to change her and start asking how to understand her. Because the truth is, when a woman feels deeply understood, everything else starts to change, including how she looks at you, talks to you, and yes, how she wants to be with you. When a woman feels heard, her heart begins to lean in again. So let's talk about how to actually change things, how to bring back the connection, the desire, the spark. Because the truth is, you can't force someone to feel what they don't. You can't demand love, attention, or intimacy, but what you can do is create the kind of environment where those things begin to grow again. That's the part most people miss. They think fixing a relationship is about saying the right words or doing a grand gesture, but what really shifts the energy is consistency, emotional safety, and presence. If she's not in the mood, it's not your job to pressure her or convince her. It's your job to understand what she needs to feel in order to want to show up fully. And what she needs is to feel safe emotionally, mentally, and yes, physically too. She needs to know that being herself won't be punished, that her thoughts, her feelings, her flaws, even her silence will be met with compassion rather than criticism. That's the kind of space where intimacy begins to breathe again. Start with the simple things. Sit with her, not to talk, not to fix, but just to be there. Hold her hand when she least expects it. Notice what makes her laugh and do it more. When she talks, listen, not with the intention to respond, but with the intention to understand. These may seem small, but they're everything. Because when a woman feels emotionally seen, she begins to soften. And when she softens, the distance between you starts to disappear. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Create it. Light a candle, cook her favorite meal, play her favorite music, invite her into shared moments, even if they're simple. You don't have to impress her. You have to connect with her. Because true intimacy isn't about performance, it's about presence. It's not about saying, look what I did for you. It's about asking, how can I love you better today? Rebuilding the bridge between emotional connection and physical closeness takes patience. If she's been distant, there's probably a reason. Don't dismiss it. Lean into it. Be willing to hear the uncomfortable truths. Be willing to apologize, not just with words, but with changed behavior. Make her feel safe again, not by demanding closeness, but by earning it through consistency. And then, once the emotional space is restored, the physical intimacy will follow naturally, not forced, not out of obligation, but because she feels wanted, not just for her body, but for her presence. She feels like she matters. She feels chosen, not just on special occasions, but every day. Love is a practice. Desire is a response. When you show up with real presence, when you lead with kindness and follow through with action, everything else begins to shift. When you become her safe space, she'll become everything you've been waiting for. Tools.